morning and welcome to Bread and Butter, the show looking behind the scenes of the hospitality business. I'm Wendy Hargreaves and this show is brought to you by HungryHungry, the Aussie tech company helping hospo thrive. We've got some amazing guests coming up today, including Melbourne's most passionate hospo campaigner, Dani Valent, who I've just had some technical problems getting through to her, but we're working on that, and model turned MasterChef, Sarah Todd. We'll also hear from T. Lee, the acclaimed chef doing a lockdown tree change, uprooting her award-winning Anchovy restaurant and cooking at a winery cellar door just south of Bendigo. And speaking of Bendigo, Bread and Butter will broadcast live from the booming gold rush town next week, talking to the city's food heroes and finding out the best places to visit. Regional travel bans on Melburnians are expected to be removed at midnight on Sunday, and we'll dig up plenty of ideas for your next road trip. But first, let's look at some of this week's news, thanks to HungryHungry. It's been a busy week as Melbourne restaurant, pubs and cafes reopened after a very extended lockdown. And it was just in time for the Melbourne Cup, with 100,000 homeless punters looking for somewhere to play. Venues have carved outside space from car spaces, nature strips and whatever spare land they can find, as COVID restrictions force venues to create outdoor dining access across the city. Entrecote's Jason Jones has taken out several car spaces between his South Yarra restaurant and the Domain lawns at the Botanic Gardens. Called the Conservatoire, it's home for free-flowing fizz, and it's just up the road from another extensive outdoor dining area at the Botanical Hotel. A shuffle around the Tan has never had such a great place to refuel afterwards. Now, Maha's Shane Delia has also taken outdoor dining to a next level. He's literally stopping traffic in Bond Street in the CBD. The chef behind the Providore Juggernaut has won approval to create a birdcage-style pavilion called Layla, serving all the Middle Eastern mezze that made Maha famous, along with a pet-friendly brunch session, which will just go off. I can see it'll tick all the boxes for Instagram when it opens on November 11. Now, speaking of breaking things, most of Melbourne's hospitality venues have done an amazing job following the Rona rules. But there are reports of places getting caught up in the excitement of reopening, letting in too many customers and ignoring the rules for social distancing. Melbourne's hospo industry has much to learn from New South Wales, where Premier Gladys Berejiklian has just announced that QR codes will be mandatory for all venues. This news comes after New South Wales Health ordered a restaurant to stay closed until further notice after it allowed a staff member to work while potentially infectious, and failed to come up with records of staff or patrons in a timely manner. Jasmine's One Lebanese restaurant was closed in Sydney after the Section 11 of the New South Wales Public Health Act of 2010, which is actually a big deal for restaurants because it carries a fine of $11,000 and 6 months imprisonment if it is broken. It's not yet clear how Victoria's authorities will deal with venue operators who flout the rules or whether QR codes will become compulsory here. But there's no doubt that people are nervous and that we'll slide back into another widespread lockdown soon. And I'll be talking to Dani Valent, a Melbourne food writer, about that later in the show. My next guest is here with me in the Ticker studio, which is super exciting because we haven't been able to have guests in the studio under Melbourne lockdown. I'm joined by Sarah Todd, the model turned MasterChef who went on to open a dream restaurant in India in the beach resort town of Goa, and then turned that into a television series, all while raising a young son, which is some feat in itself. So thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah.
Thank you, Wendy. It's such a pleasure to be in studio with you, and I'm excited to have a chat.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It almost feels like it's not happening.
I know. I'm still pinching myself.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, you're back in Melbourne, like the scene of the crime for MasterChef. What was that, 6 years ago?
Yeah, it was. And I just got back in March this year, and I've been here, consistently that whole time. And it's been really beautiful because I never really got to be in Melbourne for such a long time. And I guess, you know, although the lockdowns and all of that's been happening, the little snippets of eating out at restaurants has been amazing.
Yeah, I bet. So you've been very happy to see Melbourne reopen this week. What was your first place to go to?
So my first restaurant that I went to was actually a Stoke House, because it was a beautiful sunny day. And I mean, what better location to kick off the new restaurant scene?
That's exactly right. Oh my God, I'm very jealous. I'm yet to get there.
Yeah.
Now, tell us what has happened since, for anyone who hasn't followed your journey since MasterChef, where you caused a sensation on the show. What has happened to your life since then? You've basically become incredibly famous in India.
Yeah, I mean, I could never imagine that this would have happened. You know, it was this one dish, aloo gobi, that I cooked on MasterChef. And because it's so big in India, everyone was following my journey and saw this dish. And, you know, I had all these followers overnight, like 50,000 followers on my Facebook overnight. And I was like, what? You know, I need to explore this country that I've always wanted to visit. And when I got there, people were recognizing me on the street and pulling and, you know, tugging and just so excited to meet me. So it was a crazy experience.
Yeah, I bet it was. So how did that lead to, I mean, it's a pretty big jump to go from that to opening a restaurant on a beach in Goa. How did that happen?
So my first trip was 3 destinations. So I went to Goa, Delhi and Mumbai, and I did a series of, you know, dinners and different events along the way. And when I got to Goa, I was like, this is a slice of heaven. You know, there's something so magical, first of all, of landing in India, but in Goa itself, it's just so tropical and relaxing. And I was like in love with this place instantly. And it wasn't until I flew back, I'd met a restaurateur in India at the time, and he rang me up one day and he's like, Sarah, I want to open a restaurant and I want to open it with you. And I was like, you're mad. I'm not opening a restaurant in India. Like, what? And he said, trust me, just come and have a look at the property and make up your mind from there. And the first thing I said to him was, you know, I'll never just put my name to a restaurant. Like, I want to be involved in the whole process. So we partnered on this restaurant and, you know, started from scratch. And little did I know how much effort it takes to open a restaurant. There's a lot more that goes into it. So I definitely, you know, a feeling for everyone at the moment.
Especially, I suppose, with language barriers and like languages within languages in India. But it makes for great TV, which led to another TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
Another 2 TV shows in India.
Yeah, well, they say, you know, when you go through any sort of stressful times, your mind forgets, you know, a lot of the incidences that happen. So thankfully, I have a TV show that captured all of those moments, which, you know, blood, sweat and tears. And, you know, I remember one day I was sitting there, I became quite close with the cameraman because he was seeing the whole journey, and we're sitting at the bar and I just kind of like broke down. I was, you know, he wasn't filming or anything. I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, it was, you know, so much to do. And like you said, language, and, you know, I started to almost cry, and he was like, started filming. I'm like, Raina, stop, you know, like I just wanted to like mourn or not, you know, feel this in peace. But, you know, I look back now and I'm just so thankful that the whole journey got documented, because, you know, it has been such a special experience. You know, I've definitely changed as a person. I've learned so much. I appreciate the culture of India. You know, everyone has accepted me. My staff has been incredible. You know, I have the same, you know, staff from day one, you know, 5 years later. So especially in the current times, we just opened up about 2 days ago.
Oh,
and
wow.
thankfully, thankfully I have the same chef. So, you know, he understands my cooking style, and, you know, to be able to implement things, it's not as stressful as what it probably would have been if, you know, we weren't able to retain that staff.
Yeah, of course. So how were they able to open? From all reports, India's in all sorts of strife with COVID infection.
Yeah, Goa is, touch wood, a little bit better than the rest of the country, but we have to, you know, have huge, you know, health and safety measures put in place. And we're luckily a very big restaurant, so it's a 250-seater and it's all open plan. So, you know, a lot of fresh air and, you know, that outdoor, indoor sort of vibe. So we've definitely limited the numbers and, you know, lots of health and safety measures.
Yeah. So you've come back to Australia though. So what drove that decision to leave India and resettle with your family back here?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm blessed that I'm from a country that, you know, has really controlled this whole situation. And, you know, I wanted to be at home, especially when, you know, things are quite difficult. And, yeah, just spending that time, you know, staying in Australia for all that time has been amazing. And yeah, and I've been blessed that I could continue working while I'm here. So I've managed to keep a little bit busy during the lockdown.
Yeah, well, and it all started with MasterChef. I mean, people sort of make light of the fact that there are so many MasterChef contestants out there trying to keep trading on their fame during MasterChef. But in your case, it hasn't stopped. You've just kept going for 6 years, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, MasterChef it's such a respected program, and I think the fact that they really focus on, you know, building talent and chefs and cooks, and it's there's such a good camaraderie. So the show globally is just so respected. So to be a part of that has been really amazing. And it's true, like even when people come up to me and mention MasterChef, like the passion and love that they have for it is still there. So, you know, I think that was definitely a rocket into the industry, but I mean, it's hard work. Like we've had so many ups and downs and, you know, things that have happened along the way, but like any industry or any entrepreneur, there's always a lot of roadblocks along the way, but you just have to, you know, try and stay positive and get back up and keep pushing forward.
Now, speaking of staying positive, you've actually been filming another TV series here in Victoria during lockdown. Tell us what's been happening.
Yeah, so Farm to Fork is an incredible program that really highlights Australian produce and shows, you know, people at home how to cook them really simply. So I've been filming for the last couple of months, and yeah, just working on some really beautiful recipes, and it's been amazing to bring that touch of India in a lot of my dishes and playing around with a lot of spices, but, you know, really stripping it back and just showing people that, you know, even though it looks like you see all these grandmas in India that have been cooking these dishes for generation after generation, that we can actually simplify it and it doesn't need to be that difficult. So I play around with a lot of spices and that is my thing, but it's definitely very international and lots of different flavors, but really highlighting Australian farmers, which has been amazing because, you know, I've traveled so much in India and this has just given me a really good insight into, you know, all the amazing farmers around Australia.
Okay, so that'll be interesting. So it's a bit of a holding ground for former MasterChef contestants by the sounds of it. Who are your co-hosts?
So it is Courtney Ralston and Michael Weldon, and they're amazing. They did such an amazing job last year, and taking over now from Andy Allen, which is, you know, he's left big shoes for me to fill, which is nice, but, you know, he's done an amazing job going on to be the new host of MasterChef now. So yeah, it's been nice. We've, you know, obviously had to do the social distancing and all of that. So, you know, working around all of these elements that come into play, but it's been such...
How do you do it? How do you film a TV series with Melbourne in one of the harshest lockdowns in the world?
Yeah,
How did you do it?
Definitely, you know, a lot of precautions had to be taken and, you know, doubling up, no makeup artists or anything like that. It's a cooking show anyway. So, you know, it's been good, to be honest. I think we're... you know, I think Australia in particular is great when it comes to a crisis. Everyone pulls together and, you know, just works a little bit harder. And so it's actually been really, really beautiful. Oh. So I've enjoyed it.
Well, look, it's going to come on air soon, is it?
Yes.
Do you know when it will be?
So the date hasn't been announced, but it will be this month, which is, yeah, very, very soon.
Oh, fantastic. Well, so will this keep you in Melbourne for a little bit longer?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, summer's about to hit and we're in a good space. So I definitely want to just keep being here and yeah, living the Australian life.
Look, no, it's a beautiful thing. Now, speaking of which, you've got a young son. Is he showing any interest in cooking?
He is. You know, he went through a couple of phases, you know, where he was eating everything and cooking, you know, a lot in the kitchen with me, and then he, you know, shunned everything, you know, pushed everything away, and now he's been really loving it. It's been, you know, so nice because we had to kind of create a rule in the house that because he's like any other child, fussy. And so we try one new thing every single day, whether it's a dish or an ingredient or a flavor. So, and he has this scale where if it's over a 7 out of 10, then we'll eat it again. If it's under a 7, he's like, he never wants to try it again. So
you've got your own MasterChef judge in the house.
Yeah, and he's a harsh one, that's for sure. Kids are always the most honest, right?
Yeah, that's very true. So what's next then for Sarah Todd? What's going to be the next big thing for you?
So, I mean, honestly, I think this has really made me think about the lifestyle that I was living. You know, I was on a plane I worked it out, 13 trips to India alone, and everything else on top of that. And I spent 30 days on a plane, I worked out last year, and that's definitely never going to happen again. I think I needed that little bit of a wake up call to just go, strip things back and what's the most important. So for me, I've definitely been enjoying that time at home and working on a cookbook that's coming out early next year, and a range of chili sauces. So I've been keeping very busy, that's for sure. Can't sit still, but it's nice to be at home.
Oh, look, it's fantastic. And thank you so much for joining me in the studio. I really look forward to finding out what's next for you.
Thank you, Wendy.
That was Sarah Todd, a model turned master chef, turned food entrepreneur, turned restaurateur. There's not much that she hasn't done. Now, up next, I'll be talking to T. Lee, who's the award-winning chef behind Anchovy in Richmond, who's on a bit of a tree change in the lockdown conditions that we have here in Melbourne. She'll be up just next. We'll just take a quick break.
Stream us live on the Ticker app, Apple TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and tickertv.com.au. Ticker, streaming news now.
Welcome back to Bread and Butter. We've just heard from Sarah Todd, the model turned MasterChef, who you'll see again on Channel 10 as the new co-host of Farm to Fork. My next guest is T. Lee, who needs no introduction in Melbourne's restaurant scene as the award-winning chef behind Anchovy in Richmond. Now she's doing a bit of a tree change and moving her restaurant to a winery just south of Bendigo. It's a long way from the busy Bridge Road restaurant in Richmond to the hills in the Central Highlands. But, it's an awesome idea and I wish that I could do it. Welcome so much to the studio. It's great to have you here, T. How's it going, doing the commute to Bendigo to cook?
It's actually quite nice getting out of Melbourne and just, it's quite refreshing actually, just to see the scenery and just going out there, and it's very calm and serene and you're not distracted by anything. It's just like keeping focus. So we're doing just a set menu, just keeping focus on the dishes that we think is kind of representing us at the moment. And
well, let's wind back a little bit. Okay, so we've been through the harshest lockdown in the world, and Anchovy was serving takeaway through most of that time. Is that how you've been working?
Yeah, we did close for a bit at the beginning, just to, I guess, focus on what we wanted to do, and and we predominantly, I just changed the cuisine completely, and so then I decided to cook Laotian food, something that I've never done before, but something I love eating. So I was just like, all right, let's just put the fire back in the kitchen, throw all the chefs, in the deep end, and just cook something completely new. And so we did Laotian for the first lockdown. And then the second lockdown, we kind of just did things that I love to eat. And so a lot of the...
Kick-ass banh mi.
Yeah. And we started the banh mi, which was going crazy, and, was selling, about 120 every day selling out, which is crazy. And, Yeah, and a lot of shellfish and suckling pigs, and like people really got onto it, and we were amazed because we're like, oh, now we're doing $150 platters for people. We weren't too sure how people were going to take it, but yeah, people were really into it.
But then you had an invitation to set up your kitchen at Sutton Grange Winery near Bendigo. So it sounds like an offer too good to refuse, really.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I think it just came about as I think during the first lockdown, we just wanted to get out of Melbourne. And when the restaurants did reopen again, we just found that a lot of our clientele weren't in Melbourne. So everyone went regional. So from my partner and I, we like traveling and camping. And so we're like, maybe we kind of just tick two boxes, one. Yeah. And then we decided to move the restaurant to Bendigo, and that's how it kind of just happened. And it happened very fast, actually. Yeah.
Fantastic. And it's been going since the end of October?
Yeah, so last week was our first week, and we put tickets up for sale, and we've sold out all days. It's fully booked. And so now the winery wants us to continue through to December, and I think we're just kind of negotiating the days because we have a restaurant we still need to open in Richmond. Yeah.
But for anyone who was trying to get into the Anchovy pop-up at Sutton Grange, there's a bit of a chance you'll do a few extra weeks if they keep an eye on the...
Yes. I think we're definitely going to continue to the end of November. Whether we continue Saturday, Sunday for December is up for discussion.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Watch this space, huh?
Yes.
So what have you loved about doing a pop-up restaurant as opposed to a busy little restaurant in Richmond?
I think right now, with the menu and how it's laid out, I guess it's more focused. I'm doing about 7 to 9 bites of food, and it's 7 to 9 bites that I'm taking people through a journey to. I'm exploring Vietnamese cuisine a bit more. I guess it's keeping focus to my heritage. And yeah, I think knowing how many people I'm going to serve and just delivering the best I can with those bite size. Yeah.
I guess that's the bonus coming out of lockdown for chefs and restaurateurs is that you're able to set the rules for your business.
Yeah. And we've been an a la carte restaurant for 5 years, and now, we were contemplating whether we do a la carte for Sutton Range or we do a set menu, and we bit the bullet and we go, let's set menu, just make sure, we cover our costs. And seeing this now, and, there's no dietaries, people are just happy, which is amazing, but, it's Asian food. And just seeing the cash flow, people are paying ahead. We know how much money we'll be able to spend for staff. We know how many people we're serving. And I guess for restaurants and restaurateurs, it's very important just to see that money ahead. And so you can plan your week or month out.
There's actually a bit of a push now in light of everything that's happening and the stresses that hospitality industry is under, that all meals should be paid up front, like going to the cinema or going to see a show. Do you think that that's how it should be?
I was against this model, a few years ago, but now I think of it, it actually makes so much sense, especially for us as a small business, It's a lot of the times restaurants, they struggle is because of cash flow, but now how many people you're going to serve, how much money you're going to make, the wastage, you're just ordering to the amount of people and you're hiring staff to the amount of people you're getting in. So I think it's a win-win, and it's a win for customers because you're going in there, you get to experience what the restaurant is all about. And for the restaurant, they get to control all the costs and deliver the best of their ability to whatever the menu.
So it's more of an experience.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that's hit the news overnight is the New South Wales Premier has announced that QR codes will be mandatory.
Yeah.
And they've actually closed down a restaurant up there that had a case of COVID from staff, where the restaurant actually didn't have any COVID-safe rules at all.
All right.
So yeah, it's all we're actually following in New South Wales footsteps to a large degree because they've been open for quite a few months.
Yeah.
Does it worry you that we don't have firm rules here in Victoria for the hospitality industry?
A little bit. You know, it's I probably prefer the firm rules actually. It just helps systemize everyone. You know, it's just like, this is how we're going to do it. Everyone follow the rules instead of like one venue does it this way, another venue does it this way. And, you know, like in Canberra, they have a database that the government can access straight away instead of like 15 different types of platforms. And I think it's quite important that if the government can systemize everything for us, it's just easier to track down the problem straight away than go through so many different people.
Yeah. So have you been out to dinner this week now that we're free to dine in Melbourne?
No, I haven't yet.
Wow.
But, which is, but I think when we were, the 25-kilometre rule was lifted a week ago. Friends of mine, we drove down to Springvale, went to our favourite restaurant, and we just sat in the van. Actually, we brought our own table and all our plates and cutlery, and you know they thought we were crazy, but we're like, no, you know, your food is best eaten fresh, you know. So we bought everything, and it's nice. I think that was our first van restaurant experience. Yeah.
Well, maybe that'll be in your future.
Yeah.
I really look forward to see what happens up in Bendigo. And for any of you that are looking to make bookings for Tea Lee's amazing anchovy pop-up up at Sutton Grange, keep an eye on the Anchovy website and the Sutton Grange website. They'll be letting you know when tickets will be released again. Now, it's been my absolute pleasure to have you in the studio. Thanks for coming in, and best of luck reopening Anchovy.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's great to see you. Now, that was Tea Lee from Anchovy Restaurant serving her unique brand of Southeast Asian food at Sutton Grange Winery for the next month, perhaps. That's our show for this week. I'm Wendy Hargreaves, and I'll be back next week with more news from behind the scenes of the food and drink business, coming to you live from Bendigo on Wednesday at 10:30 a.m. Until then, stay safe and eat well.
Stream us live on the Ticker app, Apple TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and tickertv.com.au. Ticker, streaming news now.